We will now move on to a very interesting and significant topic from the former Associate Director of Government Relations of the United States Olympic and Paralympic Committee, Ms. Karen Irish, and World Feed reporter and journalist of EuroLeague and Forthnet Group, Ms. Theodora Panteli, who both will talk to us of the subject of Paris 2024 and gender equality. Ms. Irish and Ms. Panteli, over to you now.
Thank you very much. Appreciate being here, and my greetings and my welcome to all of the participants in this year's Frontrunner conference. I'm honored to participate here, as well as to be paired with Ms. Panteli to discuss this topic this morning. Dora, I'll leave it to you.
An honor and a privilege as well to be here and to be with Mrs. Iris to share this interesting topic and our ideas and experiences through our fields. And I think it's going to be an interesting discussion. I hope you have a lot of questions.
Exactly. I couldn't agree more. So for those who have questions during, I think we welcome those. I think we'd like to make this an interactive, participatory discussion. I'll give you a bit of my background, and then Dora, perhaps you can share a little bit of yours, and then we can see if there are specific questions for us, and then we can talk about anything that the audience wants, or to discuss any questions that they may have. But I think for the topic, I think it's important for the participants to understand kind of where we come from and our experiences in the sport industry. So, you know, I was in Washington, D.C. I was the Associate Director of Government Relations for the United States Olympic and Paralympic Committee. And I worked 5 Olympic Games and 1 Pan American Games, which is our regional Olympic Games. So my perspective is very different from most of the rest of the world, simply because the Olympic Committee in the United States is so differently structured. We are an independent, we are a non-governmental organization, and we receive no money from our federal government. It is all from broadcast revenues, as well as from sponsorship monies, and then also individual donors in the United States who view Olympic and Paralympic sport as important enough to donate their own personal monies to the funds. So we have some government oversight relative to congressional oversight. Our federal government looks after the Olympic and Paralympic Committee, and for a long time they were very focused on medals. So when we look at things like, we'll talk a little bit about, we had an enormous U.S. gymnastics scandal. So when you're looking at the ideas of gender equality, there are issues within the United States that we do not have perfectly here. And so there are many things that we are working to resolve. And my personal experience may be different culturally from many of what European countries and even most of the rest of the world. We also have some of the things that we're looking at relative to gender equality in sports is the United States women's national soccer team is another football team, which again, differently structured from men's World Cup and Olympic football, is the idea that our women's national team is both our World Cup team as well as our Olympic team, and they have filed suit because they are far more successful globally and internationally than our men's team, to be paid equally. So there are a number of issues that we deal with here in the United States. And then we can talk about women in the sports industry, not just the athletes, but also our experiences in the workforce. And so, Dora, I will let you have some time to talk about your experiences and some of the things that you have um, looked at and deal with, and have also experienced as an athlete, and now in the professional workforce.
Let me fix a little bit my camera because for some reason my connection was not good, so I had to reconnect. So I hope you see me now better. Okay.
Yes.
As we mentioned before, I'm a TV presenter. I'm a sport journalist for Nova Sports channels, and I'm working with EuroLeague the past 4 years as a world feed reporter. I started with basketball when I was 14 years old, and I was the first female Greek basketball player in 2005 to receive an NCAA scholarship. Back then was like unreal what was happening, but I think that I opened a door for a lot of girls that wanted to make their dream come true playing basketball overseas, because it's hard here in Greece to combine playing sports and have an education, because our system is not well prepared, to facilitate something like this. So a lot of girls and boys have to choose whether to concentrate on being professional athletes or receive an education, or even, having another job. After that, coming back from the States, I started working as an educator and then as a journalist. And for the past 5 years, as I mentioned before, I've been doing this job, which is mainly men's profession here. All over the world, but here, especially in Greece, from my experience, what I'm doing, because I'm not just a sport journalist or a TV presenter, I'm a commentator and I'm a game analyst. And this was something that I never expected that I would do. And people that hire me never expected that I would be able to do it, because no other female has done it. So for me, on 2019, I was given the opportunity to be the first commentator in EuroLeague, a Greek commentator, female commentator, and the fourth all over Europe to ever done this. So, I traveled at the States last year to participate in a forum with 48 journalists, female journalists from around the world. And we were talking about Title IX and gender equality and all those things. And I started thinking, I'm not a female sport journalist, I'm a sport journalist. I'm not a female commentator, I'm a commentator. I'm not a female game analyst, I'm a game analyst, because I'm doing the same work, I'm doing the same effort, sometimes double effort, and I have the same credentials like my male colleagues. So I don't know why we're still putting titles on female sports, men's sports, female jobs, men's job. We don't have to separate those things. And I think that the more we educate that there is no gender boundary when it comes to professions, I think the more we will excel, and we will see more women in those fields that for some reason they think that we do not have what it takes. Let me say it like this. It's simple. You don't have what it takes to be in this field. You need to be tough. You can accept criticism because you're a female, or you can have family and do that job. And these are things that I still have to listen to. But at the beginning, I was questioning, maybe I don't have what it takes because I'm a girl, or maybe I can have family and a career like this. But the more I do this job and the more I become better, I see that there is no reason for a female not to have the opportunity to make her dreams come true because of a label. No label can stop you from dreaming. So I think that is what I have to say from my background. I try a lot to, to pass on to other people this idea. I'm still working on it because I have to fight a lot because of stereotypes. But it's something that I think I want to do while I'm keep on being a professional, to also fight for other girls to be on this field. I really want to do this.
Well, I couldn't agree more with Dora. And I think one of the, for me personally, the idea that women have to use the word fight at all is sort of a sad commentary on our position and our role. And Dora and I were discussing before this week as we were preparing for this. I moderator can jump in and maybe give us a how many men and how many women are in the audience and who have registered for the conference, because I think we like to speak to both the men and the women. I think we would like to make sure that the women feel like there is a pathway forward, but also to get a bit of a reality check to say, you are going to have to be twice as good. You are going to have to work twice as hard still. And even in the United States, where gender equality has been a topic of conversation for literally decades, um, women still make only 78 US cents for every dollar that a man makes. Um, and it is always going to be, well, I'll say it, I hope it isn't always a struggle, or always an effort that is so time and energy consuming. I agree with Dora's statement that we would like to be seen as, whatever field of the industry that we are in, as that title, and we happen to be female. And that, you know, there is also not just gender equality discussions here in the United States, but diversity and inclusion, or diversity and equity, are major topics in all areas of the workplace and even just in general life in the United States. And as you likely know, it tends to be that Europe is far more well educated about what's going on in the United States than the US is educated about what is going on in the rest of the world. So you're probably well aware that we have had a Black Lives Matter significant issue this past summer, and it continues. We are having a racial and ethnic, as well as a gender reckoning in the United States that impacts all areas of life, not just the workplace. Having said that, where that sort of ties into sports in general is that I think there is an effort and a dialogue and a conversation going on that diversity matters in the workplace, and that having a diverse kind of workplace, but also the people at the table, bring in different perspectives so that everybody benefits, and that the work that whatever you are doing, whether it is a marketing team, whether it is a communications team, whether it is government relations, whether it is your analytics team, that the more diverse a population that you bring into that, the better off the decision-making process is. And there's also quite a number of studies that say that women in particular who are in leadership positions drive profits. There are the CEOs of women who are in the C-suite, the corporate suite in the United States, tend to have healthier, more robust, and significant bottom lines relative to profits. And by its very nature, and Dora and I talked about this too, is that sports is by nature competitive. And therefore, so is the sports management industry. And so if you can't point to successes in terms of driving things forward and making money, it's a problem because that is what oftentimes you're measured against.
Yeah. And Karen, because you talk about numbers before, I collected some stats regarding my profession and the league I'm working in to give people an idea when we talk about gender equality and opportunities that are given to female coaches, trainers, commentators, journalists. Right now in EuroLeague, we have 0 head coaches, 0 assistant coaches, 0 trainers when it comes to females, 0 GMs, and 4 female commentators all time. Myself and another Spanish journalist, we are all the only ones that we're still commentate on games. And sadly, I'm the only game analyst in 30 networks right now that are covering EuroLeague. And I think, and I used the word fight before because we really have to fight because we are not given the opportunity, no matter our knowledge and our credentials, to do it. We have to fight for it. We have to go to whoever is above us and say, I want to do this, try me. So every time I meet with younger journalists or with girls that they're interested in getting on the field, not only sport journalism, as coaches, as communication people, they all say, do you think men are not going to let me do what I want to do? Do you think that they're going to forbid me for doing it? I think I might choose something else, something that women will like to do. And I'm getting mad because I'm saying there is no reason to put a ceiling on the things that we want to do. And we've been raised thinking like this, but we need to change. And in order for us to change, men will have to do their part too.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? It's not only our fight, we both have to fight. Men and women have to fight for women to have more opportunities.
Agreed. Is the moderator able to engage with the audience and the conference participants and registrants to provide any questions that might be asked that we can answer, or sort of topics that they would like us to focus on in the time we have available?
Hello, Ms. Panteli. Hello, Ms. Iris. We're very fortunate to have you both here today. Ms. Iris, I would like to thank you because I know that it's too early there and there is a time difference. So I want to do this publicly as well. Ms. Panteli, I want to thank you for playing this role as a female role model in the sports industry in Greece in such pronounced way. This conversation has been very interesting. I was really inclined to interrupt a few times. Elisaveta Armetai, who introduced you, is a sports management student. She's also an athlete in kickboxing. Uh, Too many stereotypes that she's breaking. And she was the fourth in this fruitful dialogue. Myself, I'm an academic in sports marketing, and I have been a former athlete in volleyball, having lived from the inside of many, let's say, male-dominated industries. What you have been reflecting. Though it's not my role here to reflect, I cannot thank you enough also as a mother, because my daughter who would be here today in this shooting, but she cannot during the COVID circumstances, she was like,
are you gonna be four girls talking about sports? So this was the wow effect for her. So thank you very much for your speeches so far. We indeed have many questions, and I call our attendees to keep asking their questions using the designated spaces in the platform. The first of one, allow me to connect to our platform, has to do with how the 50-50 participation, and allow me also to send this on the chat box so that this could be visible also to our participant. You know that the technical issues are a new reality now. So what I would like to ask is how the 50-50 participation in Paris would actually help society in a formal way to overcome the social barriers. This question probably could be firstly addressed by Miss Irish.
I'm happy to. Yes. So it was just this last December that the Paris 2024 Olympic Games Organizing Committee and the International Olympic Committee, and by the way, just as a personal anecdote, um, I am much older than most of the audience, but my first experience with the Olympic Games was the 1976 Montreal Games. I was very young at that time, but I have been a fan of the Olympics. And so to be here talking with people in Greece in the cradle of the Olympic Games is such an honor, and it speaks to the historic background of my interest and my love for the Olympic Games. So I preface it with this: the Paris 2024, there has been a move by the International Olympic Committee for several years to move towards gender equality, but also to pay attention to, and they don't always get it right, but I do think that they are aiming towards a more equitable society. And the modern Olympic Games were started by 5 Nobel Peace Laureates. And so the effort to leverage a global sport event as a driver for world peace and for enhancements in society in general has a long history, at least with the modern Olympic Games. And so it's actually a question that Dora and I discussed a little bit of, is the Olympic Games and the International Olympic Committee the appropriate organization and event to drive social change? And I believe that it is, because it is such a global platform. If you consider that the Men's World Cup as a sports event is larger than, has a greater global audience than even the Summer Olympic Games, which is the larger of the two between the summer and the Winter Games, it is still a male focused event, as opposed to the Olympic Games, which has multiple events, as well as gender participation. And so I think it is one of many appropriate events and organizations to drive social change. The other thing that the International Olympic Committee has focused on, and again, it's not always perfect, but I think aiming for higher ideals, even in the idea of um, not just social change, but environmental impact and lowering the environmental footprint of the Olympic Games. Um, I think, and focusing a little bit on sustainability is another larger global question that the Olympic Games and the International Olympic Committee can help address. So that would be, I think Paris 2024 is helping move in that direction. And you mentioned COVID. COVID obviously stopped the Tokyo 2020 Games. That is still a question, but gender equity, 48.8% of the the athletes will be women in Tokyo in 2021 this year as well. So I do think that there is a move, and I do think that women will see more women participating in sport. And as Dora has participated in Olympic sport and also professional and also in the United States, it is going to be natural that women move into sports management roles as well.
True. To add up to what Miss Iris said, but she is more appropriate for the 2024. But what I have to say as a professional is that, I started basketball because of Dennis Rodman, but I started journalism because of Doris Burke. She's a Hall of Famer journalist. She's a commentator. She is one of the most well-respected females all around the world for her career in sport journalism in the NBA. So the more we have exposure, the better it is, and the more girls will get into the field, even if it's journalism or communications or management. The more women they see, the better it is. And as you said before, you use the word role model. Since we have the exposure, everybody who has exposure is a role model in a good or in a bad way. It's up to us to define if we're going to have negative or positive effect to the people that following us through social media, through the things we do, through our choices. So for me, since I have the exposure through my job, the profession I have chosen to do, I think that the more girls are seeing the initiatives I take or the things I'm doing, if I participate as a journalist at the 2024, the more girls like me are going to be there, the more girls will be in the next Olympics and then Olympics after. So I think the more we promote those things, the better it is for the future.
Indeed, though I couldn't agree more, and I don't want to put more pressure on you, but academic research also demonstrates that celebrities are more vicarious role models than friends to children. So they look up to you and imitate, since their identity is not formulated and not stable yet, they look up to role models and celebrities and TV persona. I have one more question. Here we have, excuse me for the delay, if gender equality should start from the administrative level and then move to the athletes level, or vice versa, could you name an organization in Greece or in the United States that is a positive role model for gender equality, a benchmark, as we say in sports management terms? Miss Irish, would you like to go
Dory,
first?
you want to, okay.
Thank you.
I don't mind.
The Women's Sports Foundation is one of many. It's based in New York, in the United States, and it has been established since the 1980s. And it is an advocate. It is also a grant-making organization that provides stipends, actual money grants to female athletes who are training. And so some of the United States Olympic women athletes who are in training and who are trying to qualify for Olympic or Paralympic sport now are receiving support. They have a policy or an advocate that is based in Washington, D.C. And so they do, both on the policy side, but also real money that is being given to female athletes to support them in their training. So that's just one that I can think of many. There are a number of what we call nonprofit organizations. They are non-governmental organizations in the United States that are advocates for underserved, underprivileged youth that do not have as many opportunities or as much money, that are based, many of these organizations are based in Washington, D.C., so they can influence national politics and policies to advocate on behalf of girls and women in sport, but also, again, this idea of diversity and inclusion where Black and Brown children who may not have all of the opportunities they have an advocate for them and on their behalf. I did also work for the US Soccer Foundation, which uses the monies that were left over from the surplus of the 1994 Men's World Cup football soccer that was hosted in the United States, that also grants money and focuses on field building in areas where youth sport is difficult because there isn't a lot of money in those communities. So those are two that I can think of.
Okay,
Panteli?
I'm not going to be so positive as Miss Iris was, because we live in a different reality here in Greece, and um, it hurts to say, but since I've been in both countries, I know the difference. When it comes to sports, as a basketball player, I know the difference to that. It's a huge difference, and I know the difference as a professional now, as a sport journalist. But I think there's also a challenge for the people that will watch this, and the future professionals in that field. They have a goal. If they want to stay here in Greece or whatever they choose to do, but since we're talking about Greece, they have a goal to find a way to promote inclusion and diversity for girls, to promote gender equality in any field. And I think I'm just going to share with you some things about my sport, basketball, because I think, and women's sports in general. I was talking to Miss Iris the other day, telling her that all women's sports here in Greece are falling under the category amateur sports recreational. What does that mean? That means that female athletes are not having equal pay, no way, with men. They have limited insurance. Some of them, they don't even have recognized contracts from FIBA. So if they're not getting paid, they cannot then go to the federation to ask for their money. So you understand that we need people to have goals to promote this, to fight for gender equality when it comes to sport. The TV exposure is limited when it comes to female sports. The sports that they have exposure on TV is track and field, gymnastics, and swimming events, because we have both men and women compete on these. And when it comes to soccer, volleyball, and basketball, we choose what to promote. We promote national championships. I'm talking about national teams, but we barely cover any other competitions. So as you understand, there are not a lot of girls that will get into playing professionally, because we have basketball is a professional sport, but it has, the amateur label, because it cannot be paid as a professional sport, but you have to act as a professional. So I think here is your challenge with the things that you are planning to do in the future. You have a goal to promote this, to promote gender equality in sports here in Greece, because we don't have it. I'm trying through my profession right now with the things I'm doing, as a journalist, as a coach, as a former basketball player for the national team, but it's not enough, because it comes from the people above me, from the federation. And since we have 0 women on, the federation, as and I'm talking about, the top places. I'm not talking about coaches or people that they can be on the teams. I'm talking about the people that are making decisions. And we need to have more women to make decisions.
Indeed, very insightful approaches and very different approaches. And Ms. Panteli is indeed reflecting a Greek reality that is, from what I understand and from what I know and from what you both reflect, a little bit more a little bit different in a negative way as compared to the United States. We have more questions. Let me share with you. It's about gender equality and not being something new as a subject. It comes from Active Media Group and Themistokles Kavulcis. He discusses about Title IX, which aimed to secure sex-based discrimination in any school or other education program that receives federal money since 1972. But this is the case at Saud educational programs too. How has this changed over the past years? Ms. Panteli, could we start with you this time?
Yeah, it's Title IX is something that we cannot even dream of right now here in Greece. And since I had my experience overseas, and I know how it reflects on society. Title IX, it's not just a decision that was taken to change. It was groundbreaking. It gave the opportunity to girls to have the same opportunities, and it created a balance that you see not on the field, but or on the court. You see it on the workplace later. You see it at the family, because the more women are going into sports, the more they become leaders, and we need female leaders. That is the case. The case is not if I will be a professional basketball player or if I will be a sport journalist or a commentator. The case is that I have qualities that I would not have them if I wasn't in this industry. If I wasn't a basketball player, if I was not given the chance to have this training, allow me to say, I became a leader because I had this opportunity. If I didn't have this opportunity, I don't know if I would be able to have a career like I do now, to be dynamic, to be a leader on what I'm doing. So I think when it comes to Title IX, and because it's something that they did in US many years ago, here in Greece, we indeed need something like this. But again, it has to come from the ministry of education. Right now, our educational system cannot foster an idea like this. There are a lot of, and even if it's the same, we're Greeks, we know what it takes from the ancient years that sports and education is the same thing. Sports is the education itself. So if we don't understand that those things are the same and we keep treating them as separate entities, we're going to have the same result. We need to start thinking that education and sports are the same thing. They provide the same qualities. And indeed, we have to keep working, combining them and not separating them.
Miss Iris, what about you?
Well, I do think so. Just to say, Title IX it refers to an actual law that actually at the time, 1972, President Nixon signed into law. So it provides educational opportunities as well as equal funding and sports opportunities for girls, and it has driven a number of things. But I think to Dora's point, sports is competitive. Sports requires discipline. So does education. Those things can really go hand in hand. And in the United States, again, you do not have to choose between education and sport. You can do both. And that has really impacted society, not just the elementary and secondary education levels, but the collegiate levels, or elementary and high school here in the United States, and college experiences. And Dora is a product of that. And so am I. I was a rower in college. So I had opportunities to pursue political science as a subject. I was a rower. And then I blended the two into my career. So I feel very, very fortunate. And that education, those leadership opportunities, but that discipline to know what it takes to move forward in a career are much more easily blended in the United States. And yet we still have our own frustrations and issues. Like I mentioned, the U.S. women's national soccer football team, they've had to use the United States court system in order to try to fight for their equal pay or matching the men's. And again, they are more successful than our men's team. So there's a lot of work to be done where the United States can lead and be a model is great, but I think globally there is much progress yet to be made.
Very interesting. Very interesting. To this point, I have to say that I come from an institution, DIRI, the American College of Greece, which follows the American, North American rationale here, where we provide scholarship for both for males and female athletes. Therefore, they don't have to be in this difficult position and this dilemma that most Greek athletes, myself included, have been in the past to follow our studies or our professional or amateur careers. And this is a step forward. One more question collected from the administrator by the audience. Was it difficult, Miss Irish, for you to be a member in the Olympic Committee? How many women are actually members, and how difficult was for you to stay in such a position for such a long time?
It's very interesting. I have had more female bosses above me than I have had male bosses. There are more in 2012, the London Olympic Games, just as an example, there were more female athletes than there were male athletes. We have one of the largest delegations to the Summer and Winter Games. We had a total of 530 female, a team delegation of 530 athletes. 269 of them were women, 261 of them were men. And that is reflected in the Olympic Committee staff. There are a lot of women and a lot of women in the leadership. Currently, the U.S. Olympic and Paralympic Committee has 18 board members. The chairman of the board is a woman. The CEO is a woman. So there is a significant emphasis on women in sport at the Olympic and Paralympic level. And I would say that's true about all of the individual sports as well. There are many women involved in all of at USA basketball, at USA rowing, and all of the other sports, winter and summer. So I have been extremely fortunate to work with a lot of women and be led by women who were in leadership positions above me.
This is indeed an impressive statistic, not one that I expected. In Greece, I wouldn't say that this is the case. From Ms.
Sure.
Panteli, we have heard what the industry, the sports communication, sports journalism. Have you seen any advancements, Ms. Panteli, though, with your position?
Uh, when it comes to my profession, we are very few of us, and most of the female journalists, sport journalists, are presenters. So there's a difference being a sports journalist and being a presenter, because you understand that you're in front of the camera, but to be actually on the field, you need to do the dirty job, which people cannot see. You know, watch the games, watch video, create stories, interviews. I think for the past 5 years, since I started this profession, I haven't seen more females entering the field. I don't know why. I've seen girls, talking to me saying, I'm thinking, but again, I don't get the opportunity. They think because we combined, that is the case when it comes on TV. We combined appearance with we're misguided by appearance most of the time, because we're talking about TV. Our image is very important, but you don't have to look good to be good at your job. And this is something that, you know, because we are guided by stereotypes, we need to avoid. Because when we're talking about sport journalism, it doesn't have to be, you know, like we're talking about TV shows. We are sport journalists. We don't have to look like supermodels, or we don't have to be TV presenters. We're sport journalists. So a lot of girls are misguided by this, and they think that in order for them to have this role, they need to be like, you know, like what people they might want to see on TV. But I'm trying to tell them, you know the game, know the rules, and then you can play better than all the men around you. The more educated you are, the more knowledgeable about your job, there is no way you will not get a chance to prove it. If it's writing, in front of the camera, behind of the camera, no matter what you want to do, as long as you are knowledgeable of the subject and you don't just want to go in front of a camera because it's easy to do, and you want to have a duration in that and a long-term career, the more chances you will have. And I think as more as I can to everyone who's asking me, I say, you have to know your stuff. You have to do the job. You have to work hard. You have to write. You have to learn. You have to study every day. And as Karen said before, because they're gonna be doubts. You have to, and the doubts are double when you're a female. I'm sorry to say, but if I make a mistake, Twitter will go crazy. Dora said that and that, and she wasn't prepared for the show, blah, blah, blah. But if a guy makes a mistake, it's okay. Nobody will go crazy on Twitter. So I say you always have to be prepared, double the work than anyone else in the room, and you're always going to get your chance.
Thank you, Ms. Patelli. I cannot thank you enough. I could extend this conversation to many other sessions, but it would not be respectful. Ms. Iris, thank you again for going over and beyond the time differences. We were very fortunate to have you here today. Our audience is very fortunate to have heard such important messages, both female and male participants. Thank you so much for your inspirational and motivational speeches. We will now close our session, and I will attend the message to our attendees who would have to give us a little more time to prepare for our next amazing speech with a well-known moderator and his in-depth knowledge of motorsport, Mr. Pounarakis. We will now take a short break. Thank you again for being here with us today.
Thank you. Just remember to have fun. It is a fun industry. It takes a lot of work, but sports is fun.
Okay, thank you as well for having me. It was a privilege to be with Miss Iris as well, and thank you for hosting this event. You're coming from a really good institution, because I've been in education many years. I know the job you're doing. Keep doing this amazing job. We need schools like this here in Greece to promote other standards that we're not used to, but we need those standards to excel as society. And to all of you, good luck with everything that you're doing. You can follow me on social media. If you have any questions, you can send your questions here to the moderator. I will be more than happy to answer them even after this conference.
Thank you. Thank you so much.